Absolutely, here is a much longer, deeper, emotionally heavier version, written entirely as a continuous American English voiceover script. First person, no labels, no breaks, no explanations, no section titles, just story. I've stretched the emotional arc, slowed key moments, added doubt, tension, silence, inner conflict, and made the HOA abuse feel suffocating. So foreign listeners stay hooked all the way through. I was standing less than 30 feet away when the HOA president completely lost control of herself, screaming at the top of her lungs, mascara streaking down her face, pounding both fists against my locked iron gate like a trapped animal, while two police officers calmly snapped metal cuffs around her wrists. She kept shouting that this was a misunderstanding, that I was trespassing on community property, that she was the victim here. The irony almost made me dizzy. 10 minutes earlier, she had been confidently explaining to a group of investors how she planned to sell my private lake for $500,000, like it was nothing more than an item on her clipboard. And in that exact moment, watching her collapse under the weight of her own lies, I realized just how close I had come to losing everything my family spent 70 years protecting. 3 months before that, my life was quiet, predictable. The kind of quiet you don't appreciate until it's gone. My name is Marcus Kowalski. I'm 42 years old. I fix diesel engines for a living, and my hands are permanently stained with grease, no matter how hard I scrub them. I live in the same house I grew up in, the same house my parents raised me, in the same house my grandfather dreamed of when he came to this country with nothing but a shovel and a stubborn refusal to fail. Every morning, I'd wake up before sunrise, step onto the dock with a mug of coffee, and watch the mist lift off the lake like it was breathing. Pine trees reflected perfectly on the water, loons calling across the surface, bass swimming so close to the dock you could see them turn. That lake wasn't just land. It wasn't an amenity. It wasn't a feature. It was 70 years of family history carved out of raw earth by my grandfather's hands in 1954. He bought swampland. No one wanted dug that lake shovel by shovel, hauled rocks with neighbors who barely spoke English, and turned it into something permanent, something that outlasted him. Every summer since then, kids learned to swim there. Every winter, the ice froze thick enough to walk on. Every hard moment in my life somehow got easier sitting on that dock staring at water that had seen everything and judged nothing. My wife Sarah and I raised our 3 kids there. Pancakes on the dock, fishing lessons, Sunday mornings where nobody rushed anywhere. It was peaceful, so peaceful that I honestly believed nothing could touch it. That belief died the day Delilah Thornfield moved into the neighborhood. She arrived in a spotless white Lexus, oversized sunglasses, designer purse, and a smile that looked friendly but felt cold. Former real estate agent. Self-appointed neighborhood improvement expert. Within 6 months, she was HOA president. Nobody remembered voting for her, but suddenly she was everywhere, walking around with a leather-bound HOA handbook like it was sacred text, quoting rules no one had ever heard of, showing up unannounced with a clipboard and that fake concerned voice. She hated my diesel truck. She hated my workshop. She hated anything that didn't look curated. But the thing she stared at the longest, the thing her eyes always drifted back to, was my lake. She asked questions that felt harmless at first. Who maintains the water quality? Are there safety barriers? Has the environmental impact been assessed? She talked about property values, liability, marketability. I brushed it off. I'd lived here my whole life. I'd seen HOA presidents come and go. None of them lasted long enough to matter. I was wrong. The first real hit came on a Tuesday morning in September. Certified letter. HOA letterhead. I remember the smell of coffee in the kitchen, my kids arguing over cereal, Sarah humming while she packed lunches. Inside the envelope was a bill demanding $500 a month in lake maintenance fees for what they called a community water feature. $500 every month. For a lake my family built decades before the HOA even existed. The letter threatened a lien on my home if I didn't pay within 30 days. I stood in my driveway holding that paper, staring at the water beyond it, and felt something twist in my chest. Anger, yes, but also fear. A quiet, creeping fear I didn't want to admit, because this wasn't some random stranger. This was the HOA, and they had power. I went straight to the HOA office that afternoon with my grandfather's original deed, survey maps, everything. Delilah didn't even flinch. She glanced at the documents like they were junk mail and smiled that slow, practiced smile. Told me my paperwork was outdated. Told me modern boundary assessments mattered more. Told me very gently that I didn't really understand property law. Suggested I leave it to professionals. The way she said it, like I was a child, like my entire life here was irrelevant. That was when I realized she wasn't confused. She was lying, confidently, comfortably, and she expected me to fold. Instead, the pressure increased. Sudden inspections, new notices, environmental complaints filed against my lake, flyers showing up in mailboxes accusing me of being selfish, of hurting the community, of blocking development. My neighbors stopped making eye contact. My kids heard whispers at school. Sarah started losing sleep. One night she sat at the kitchen table and asked quietly if maybe we should just pay the fees, keep the peace, avoid the stress. I didn't answer right away, because sitting there listening to the house creak, I felt the weight of it all crashing down on me. The HOA letters, the threats, the isolation. I wondered if I was wrong, if I was being stubborn, if I was about to drag my family into something I couldn't control. Later that night I sat alone on the dock. No phone, no noise, just water and moonlight. And for the first time in my life I genuinely considered walking away, letting her win, letting 70 years of history get rewritten by someone with a clipboard and an agenda. That thought hurt worse than any fine. What pulled me back wasn't anger, it was clarity. I realized something simple and terrifying. If I gave in now, it wouldn't stop. It never does. So I stopped reacting, and I started watching. Trail cameras are meant for deer. They work just as well on people who think no one's paying attention. 3 days later, reviewing footage over cold coffee, I saw Delilah walking my property line with a man in an expensive suit, measuring, pointing, smiling. A quick search confirmed who he was. Rex Grimshaw, developer, known for turning natural land into luxury condos. That was the moment everything snapped into place. This wasn't about rules, it wasn't about safety, it was about money. I dug deeper. There were no legitimate surveys filed, no authority to sell anything. Delilah had been negotiating behind closed doors, promising land she didn't own. When I confronted her evidence in a public meeting, she tried to drown me in technical language and fake reports. But I had something she didn't expect. Proof. Experts. HOA bylaws she violated. And for the first time her confidence cracked. That didn't stop her. It made her desperate. The harassment escalated. More flyers, more complaints, subtle threats. My family became collateral damage. One night Sarah found me sitting in the dark, staring at the wall, and asked if this was worth it. I didn't have an answer right away. Because the truth is, I didn't want to be brave. I just wanted my life back. But then I looked at my kids, thought about what they'd learn if I backed down, and something inside me hardened. I let Delilah think she was winning. Let her believe the gate was broken. Let her bring her investors and officials onto my land for what she thought was a final walkthrough. Cameras recorded everything. Audio captured every word. And when they were deep enough, confident enough, I locked the gate with one tap on my phone and made the call. Watching her panic was surreal. One minute she was giving orders, the next she was screaming, accusing me of illegal detention, demanding to be let out. Grimshaw distanced himself instantly, pretending he barely knew her. And then the police arrived. Federal agents, environmental investigators. Handcuffs clicked shut. The woman who told me I didn't understand the law was suddenly begging for a lawyer. I stood there as she was led away, still yelling about her rights, about how unfair this was, about how none of it was her fault. And all I could think was how close she came to erasing my family's legacy with a smile and a signature. When the cars pulled away and the noise faded, the lake was quiet again. Still, untouched. the same water my grandfather dug with his hands. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I just stood there breathing, knowing one thing for certain. Sometimes the only way to keep what matters is to refuse to surrender it.